Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Malthaus Games podcast. My name is Delton. I'll be your host today, and with me, as usual, is my lovely wife and yellow player, Haley.
And I'm mad.
She's mad. This is the Malthaus Games podcast. We're all about board games, card games, tabletop games, role-playing games, things of that sort, and apparently Haley being mad.
Yeah,
Why?
because I really wanted a 4th of July themed intro today. Just like slow it down, drop it down like half a step, put in some fireworks and a couple of
I need to somehow layer it with the 1812 overture.
yes.
And so that way it sounds appropriate for that.
Appropriate, yes.
Here's the thing. This comes out this weekend, not 4th of July,
yeah,
which
but
is next weekend.
It's the last one before 4th of July.
That's true.
This is our one shot.
Well,
Do not miss your chance to.
Here's the thing. Maybe in post, depending on time and effort, we can have something like that.
Remember, opportunity comes just once in a lifetime.
Thank you. We're going to get copyright claimed for you. Yes, but anyway, we're here. We made it. We're alive. Episode 121, which is wild. I'm going to go ahead and crack the beer. Do you want to start talking about what we've been doing lately?
Oh, yeah, we've been up to some hood rat stuff. So first of all, Delton turned 31.
I did.
He's no longer 30, dirty, and dying.
That was 2 days ago as of this recording, because we're recording Friday night.
Yeah. And so what we did for Delton's birthday is we went down to the Wichitas to go camping, which was really fun. So the Wichita Wildlife Refuge Center, it is the only reason there are still longhorn cattle today. I guess back in the 1920s, longhorn cattle were kind of seen as a nuisance. They were going extinct. And somebody got a grant from federal government to send 300 of them to the Wichitas just to preserve them. And every longhorn cow alive today can be traced back to the Wichitas. And it's really wild because you drive into the park and they're just there. They're just chilling. We went on a hike and there was just a cow, longhorn cow just eating cud, along with buffalo.
Bison.
Just kind of chilling, eating grass, being aggressive, coming to the car because we got a little too close. We were on the road. We were not off-roading. We were on the road.
They weren't being aggressive, but they were watching us because there were babies around them. We were just stopped in place.
They were being assertive.
They were being assertive, like, hey, we don't like you here. We said, okay, bye.
Okay, bye. We reversed it.
Yeah.
But we saw a groundhog. We saw raccoons. We had our little headlamps on, and our tent didn't have a rainfly on it, so we could see all around us. And you'd hear rustling, and you'd sit up, and you'd lock eyes with the raccoon, whose bright eyes would look back at you, little beady critters, and they'd look at you, then scurry off, and then come back and try and steal your food out of the tent site.
Yeah, it's the Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge down in South Oklahoma outside of Lawton and Fort Sill. And it's a really nice place. Like Haley said, the bison and the longhorn cattle just walk around everywhere. There's prairie dogs in several different spots and just all forms of life forms. Whatever. But it's really neat because if you look at a map of it, about 75% of the wildlife refuge, it has zero recreational use. It is fenced off, and no one is allowed out there because that is wildlife refuge. It's doing what it's supposed to do. They're not allowed to be touched. You can't walk out there. Unless something needs done for some reason, you're not allowed to go there. But then the other portion, 25%, is recreational because they make their money from people like us who go camping and go into town and do all the different stuff. It's really nice, though. It's a great area. I would not go in the summer again, at least not camping in a tent.
Which was more difficult to sleep through, the 90-degree nights or the feral hog?
The 90-degree nights is the reason I was awake, to hear that there was a pig nearby just breathing, and I was like, I don't like this guy. I'm gonna go. I don't trust him. I don't trust wild pigs. They can be very aggressive, and they can be dangerous. I didn't think he really would be, but I wasn't going to stick around much longer because I already wasn't sleeping and that wasn't helping. So I was like, let's go get in the car. I'll kick on some AC and see if I can get a little sleep in the parking lot. Still didn't happen. I got about an hour of sleep that night. Miserable, but still a fun time. I want to go camping. We've already got it scheduled now in October to drive back down we drive to my parents, drop the dog off, and then from their house, it's an hour 20. So it's a short drive. We can go camping in October when it's nice and cool, and go hiking while it's cool, and it'll be a great time.
Yes, and so we had so much fun. Delton actually did get to catch up on sleep the next day, which is good.
Yes, we woke up that night, went to my parents, visited. I had like a 3.5 hour nap and then woke up sweating and was so hot and uncomfortable the rest of the day. I think I had a little heat exhaustion. Even though I was drinking water and eating food and staying in the shade, I think I just super overdid it. And my body was like, no, dude, you were too hot for too long. But when we got home, I slept a straight 12 hours and it was glorious.
And even though the Wichitas were hot, Dalton's birthday, Wednesday night, was even hotter.
It was. So Wednesday night, I had planned for me and Haley, and my friend Brian and his wife Jessica came along. We were going to over at Quail Springs Mall here in Oklahoma City. They have the AMC 24, big 24 theater AMC. They were having a 40th anniversary of John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982. I was very excited to see The Thing on a big screen. Given when we got into the theater, it was a smaller than usual big screen, one of those small theaters. But still, it was going to be on the big screen, damn it. And sadly, we didn't get to watch it. It was like a
DVR.
a DVR thing, so it kept saying like Dish Network business, Dish business, and it was obviously something that was just DVR'd and recorded off of Dish Network is what it felt like. So that was kind of a letdown by itself. But then they couldn't get it to play, and it kept messing up, and they couldn't get it to play. We never even got past we didn't even get through to the full title where it says The Thing in the beginning. So we missed, we didn't even get to see that far. And finally, after so long, they said, we can't get it to work. We're going to download it to one of our projectors to play from there. We're hoping it can be done. Now, given this was going to start at 7, it's a Wednesday night. I'm already missing wrestling for this.
Egad.
7:30, we're finally getting this news that it's not going to work. They were hoping to have it downloaded by 9 o'clock to be able to show it. We said, no, thank you. It's a freaking work night. I'm tired and old. So everybody in the theater, whether they came back or not, got a free movie pass, basically. Like, hey, here's this. You get one free movie, whatever you want, whether it be IMAX, 3D, whatever. It works. We were like, all right, we'll take it. So we leave the little theater room and start walking down, and we're like, man, somebody burnt some popcorn. I made the joke, no, that's the DVR. That's why it wasn't working. And we're walking down. We go to the little service desk and get in the big line, and we look over, and the popcorn machine's just smoking. We're like, oh, man, they are burning some popcorn. And then we look, and the popcorn machine's on fire. Like legitimate 2 to 3 foot flames in the popcorn machine.
Just like licking the air, flickering all over the place.
Well, the thing is,
wild.
those popcorn machines on the front toward the place where you purchase are open.
Yeah.
There's no doors. It's just flames.
And there's a lady waiting there with her popcorn bucket at the counter.
She's standing at the counter unfazed.
It's like, this is going to be remedied soon. I will get my popcorn. No, ma'am.
It was like, what in the world? It was like, of course, this theater, after that experience, is having this happen. So the stupid popcorn machine's on fire. Literally on fire.
It's one of those things where like your brain registers what's going on,
Yeah.
but you can't really comprehend what is going on, especially because the flames were getting higher and higher. And at one point, they were about 5 feet long, like licking almost the ceiling. Smoke is billowing, but the worst part is no smoke alarms or sprinklers are going off.
Nothing.
We're just like sitting in a world of OSHA violations, waiting for our passes. I'm like, well, you know, it's a sunk cost fallacy. We've already been in line so long. We can withstand a fireball next to us to get our passes.
And the best part was the employees are like looking at the fire and then like looking around and then looking at the fire. And we're like, somebody put the damn thing out. Just don't throw water on it. And they're like looking around. And one of the guys, he walks over and he looks at the fire extinguisher and he looks at the fire. And then he opens the door to the fire extinguisher. And then he looks at the fire. And then he pulls it out and he sets it on the counter. And he takes like 5-10 seconds to figure out how to get the pin and stuff out. And then as the manager's like almost sprinting over, he just, luckily, I mean, credit to him, he did one quick psh, and the fire was out. I mean, he nailed it.
People were cheering.
People like started
dope.
clapping. It was really funny. But the manager, oh God, me and Brian lost it. The manager's like, what happened? And they're like, we don't know. It was just on fire kind of thing. And he turns and starts to walk away and he just whole face palms himself and just has this look of like, why am I even here anymore? And we felt so bad. We're like, dude, just quit. We were laughing so hard. Luckily, nobody was injured. The fire was fine. They kicked on the other popcorn machine to keep popcorn going. But it was just, after not getting to see the movie, I paid and wanted to see. And then, yeah, we're going to get a voucher, but like kind of a womp on my birthday. And then the stupid popcorn machine is on fire in the lobby. I was like, God damn it, what is happening here? And so we experienced that. However, Brian and Jessica still got me an awesome McCready action figure from The Thing, which is Kurt Russell's character, the main guy. And then we got to go to Rough Tail Brewery and have some beers and played some Sushi Go on Brian's phone, pass and play, and just chatted. And it was a really good time. But
Came back home and watched Shaun of the Dead.
we came back home, had a couple Topo Chico seltzers, probably shouldn't have, and then watched about half of Shaun of the Dead, finished all the movie theater bucket of popcorn. I didn't feel so good the day after, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's how I know I'm not young and spry, and also I don't drink very much because over a 5-hour period, I had 4 beers, and I was asleep.
Yeah, you passed out on the couch. I'm over here watching Shaun of the Dead, and about halfway through, I was like, I'm getting tired. I gotta pause this. And then I look at the clock, and I'm like, it's only 11. We're old.
You had a full night. I mean,
it was a good, even though I didn't get to see The Thing in theaters, it was still a good birthday. So
I'm glad.
There wasn't anything bad about it, but it was still like, what in the world is happening? Of course, welcome to 31 is what the world said. Well, let's get into the beer here because we have this poured and it's just getting warmer and warmer. So this is from New Belgium Brewing, which is up out of, where is New Belgium out of?
I think it's in Colorado, isn't it?
Fort Collins, Colorado, and Asheville, North Carolina.
Blessed.
I didn't know they had 2. This is a version of Voodoo Ranger called Future Hop IPA. It's a very pretty dark purple and like blue can. Voodoo Ranger, give me some information here. 12 fluid ounces. I know that 8% alcohol by volume, and I don't see any other things except that it's an IPA. Well, there we go. We're gonna put this can. Let's try this beer out, Haley.
Voodoo Ranger. I have high hopes for this because Voodoo Ranger has never let me down. It's always been some of my most favorite IPAs. I am very excited about this. I hope that I love it now that I've talked it up for the last 15 seconds.
New Belgium always does good. This is a nice hazy, well, okay, not really hazy. It's a very faint haze in it, but it's a nice, calm, kind of yellowed color.
It's the color of Amarillo.
You can smell the hops in it. They're very gentle.
That's a damn fine IPA.
So that one, you get that citrusy a little bit, but it almost has a citrusy flavor that's more of like the flesh of a citrus fruit, of like an orange. Normally you get that very like citrus zest, real sharp, real tart.
Like the rind.
But but this actually has more of like what you would expect from the flesh, a little sweet, a little more full-bodied than I expected based off smell.
And it tastes really juicy too. You know, like some beers, whenever you take a drink, like it leaves a dry taste or it leaves like a bitter taste. This tastes very juicy.
It does.
Like after I drink, my mouth is watering a lot. So I think you're right. It is like the flesh, the juicy part of an orange.
It does. It's pretty interesting, and I like it. It's really good.
It's like a tangerine.
It kind of is, yeah. I've really never been disappointed by New Belgium. Like, they're a bigger company, but they always make solid beers, so I'm never upset by that.
Prost.
Yeah. Well, I guess with that being said, we can move into the game and see if we can, explain it well. Oh, here's the door. It's straight ahead. It's a game.
That was a Segway with some square tires.
That is the best segue you've heard all day, ma'am.
It's the only one I've heard all day.
Yeah, that sounds right. So today, for the game of this episode, it's going to be very simple. This will honestly be a pretty quick little game section. This is Cobra Paw, Points of Play, which I think that's actually the rulebook name. Cobra Paw, there you go, ninja-like know-how steals the game.
And even though it is a cobra in the game name, it is a kit. Well, excuse me, hiccup.
It is a kit?
Kitty on the box.
It is a kitty on a box.
I'm a sud.
So Cobra Paw, it's a game from Bananagrams. It actually says games grown by Bananagrams. And if you know, Bananagrams is some sort of word game where the packaging is literally a little zip-up banana. I've never played it. It's kind of like a alternate to Scrabble. I have no clue. But it's made by the same people in Providence, Rhode Island. The game design is by Derek Weston. Art direction and layout is by Laura Incatasciato. Story is by Anthony George. Illustrations, there's an @ symbol here. I don't know how to read that. I'm going to pretend it's an A. Elijah Artists. It looks like it's probably a group. It's like ELI, the @ symbol. I don't know what that's actually called. I know there's a name for it. And then KJA-Artists. Sounds like an art group.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to pronounce it. And then the creative exploration is by Kendra Harrington. It says feedback, test, and lots of finger-stabbing fun by the rest of our Bananagrams Inc. bunch, and it says winner, a winner is you, which is always the way to go. So Cobra Paw is a very simple game. You can play with 2 to 6 people in Cobra Paw, and the way it works is there are 2 dice. Each of the die have a different colored symbol around it. Let me see if I can get there they are. There's a white square. There are 2 green horseshoe looking shapes, 3 lines that are yellow, a square with lines in it that's kind of got cat ears that's an orange box.
It looks like one of those fancy pretzels, like the square ones with like window
Yes,
pane,
it kind of does.
but it's orange.
There's the blue flower, and then there is the red kanji. I just realized I don't know what that red kanji says, and I'm going to try to find out as I discuss this. So those are different colors in the game. So it might actually, I don't think it's an actual kanji, but it looks kind of like one.
I think
It's
it's just
basically a cross with like a mark in each corner coming off the cross.
Yeah.
But anyway, the way the game is going to work is very, very, very simple. You only play with one finger on your hand, whichever hand. Whoever has the smallest hands is the one to start the game. It says smallest paws. And they roll the dice. And then, depending on what comes up, let's say it's the white square and the red kanji looking shape. If those 2 things come up, then you find in the, I forget, 21 tiles in the center of the table. You have them all face up, mixed around in a pile, but all face up. You look and you say, okay, there's the white and red one. As fast as you can, reaction time, you're going to use your one finger to try to claim that tile by putting your finger down first, preferably closest to the center of that tile where there's a little divot in all these tiles. They're kind of like a domino, basically. It's a domino, but it's got a divot in the center and they're a little bit bigger than a domino. Then you would now claim that tile. That's yours. You now have the white and red tile. Then, if you're the one who took a tile, you roll the dice. If I roll the dice and it comes up double blue and Haley gets it, she's now got double blue. Then if Haley rolls the dice now that she took that last tile, she rolls it and it comes up as the white red tile and I forget it's in front of me, Haley can grab it out from under me if she's fast enough, and now she has it to put in front of her.
Which happened to me like once and happened to Delton like 45 times because he kept stealing my tiles.
I did keep stealing her tiles. But that's really the whole game. It's all roll the dice and try to react quickly to make sure that you either hold on to what you've already got or steal it from somebody else or take it from the center.
But I like it because it's a dexterity game that doesn't require a lot of dexterity. Like you're having to move quickly and you're having to just use one finger, but you don't have to worry about knocking things over. Really, theoretically speaking, you just got to not stab too much at the table or else you're going to knock the dominoes around.
At least on a slick table, yeah. It says in a normal game, it's the first person. So the dominoes are called Klafuku stones, and the dice are the Cat Nippon dice, which is just Cat Japan as a word, Cat Japan
Beautiful.
dice. I looked up Fuku. Fuku in Japanese means clothes, and so this says they are called Klafuku, so claw clothes. I bet there's a translation there that if you know how Fuku works, maybe those come together and it's like claw marked stones or something. You know what I mean? I don't know, but
Then what does Momofuku mean? Is peach something? Is it peach clothes?
maybe
I think we're about to tangent for a minute.
there's some way to use Fuku. Fuku is the pronunciation.
I'm going to go gadget Google. You keep explaining the game.
You do that. So in a normal game, it's the first person for 6 stones. In a 2-player game, it's the first to 8 stones, unless you have the 2 ninja standoff, which is to 11 stones. There's a couple variations, which it's not a big deal. One of them is no touchy. If you touch a stone after the dice have been rolled that isn't the correct one, you can't take it even if you get the correct one. And then they have Ghosts of the Fallen is what it's called. You remove 1 to 5 planks from the pool. When the dice rolls one of those, the first player to shout Cobra Paw gets to take one from that set, which is kind of funny.
So, Fuku can mean clothes. It can also mean luck or blessings. That's why Momofuku is Lucky Peach.
Okay, there you go.
Maybe it's like Lucky
So
Die.
this is Klafuku. It's the tiles.
Or Lucky Tiles.
It could be Lucky Tiles or something like that for sure. And then the dice are basically the Japanese cat dice is essentially what you can say. But yeah, so that's literally the entire rules of the game. It's not difficult. It's very simple. It's cute. And if you like any kind of dexterity style games with reaction speeds, I find this fits in that category well. But what I told Haley I like about it, because we've played some games, which we'll bring up, that kind of work like this, but one I'm going to mention because it's very popular, it's on shelves at Target, is Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. It plays like a lot of games where you play something down and it's about being fast, right? In that game, you play a card and you say Taco, Cat, and you say goat and cheese, pizza, and you go around just repeating that until somebody plays something. I think it's when you play something like, what was it, like gorilla or hippo or something, and then you have to do a reaction quickly and do something. I can't handle those games. I don't have the reaction time. My brain doesn't comprehend that speed. I've never been good at them. But Cobra Paw to me works differently because everybody rolls the dice, and instead of you playing a card and trying to watch what somebody's playing and watch what somebody's playing, there's something to me that's easier about watching these two dice roll and the faces come up, and you'll be like, boom, yellow, orange. And you immediately start scanning the field for yellow, orange. You might know that you've got it, but you might forget that you have it, right? But I like that aspect of you're looking at what they're doing, but instead of the reaction being, I recognize that reaction, and now I have to slap the table or I have to do some funky gesture. It's now I have to find it. I think that's the disconnect for me in most games that doesn't click or is difficult for me. But in this game, it's visually I have to identify where that's at before anything else happens. And I feel like rather than the identification and the action needing to be simultaneous, there's a small step between them, and maybe does that make sense at all? I'm not playing a card or watching somebody play a card, and at the same time they're playing it, I have to visually understand and physically act so fast or I
Right.
lose. Where this game, you get to visually see the colors, and then you have that like half a second or more to where you're like, where is it? And everyone stops to look to where it is.
Yeah, I think you were saying earlier when we were playing, like everyone's on the same page because somebody's not having the card. Like, okay, I can plan for playing this card.
Yeah.
Like you roll the dice, everybody gets the same information at the same time. Like you said, it's not necessarily a reaction. It's who can spot it first and then react. So you're not just
Yeah.
relying on reaction on itself. You're
Yeah.
relying on that searching, which I think you were saying like evens the playing field a bit. Unless you're like me and you put your glasses on until your contacts and you can't see worth a flip. Like a 6-year-old is going to totally kick my butt at this game.
That sounds right. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is if you're good at visual things like that, you can be like, boom, boom, found it. That gets you ahead of everybody else. And then somebody else could be faster at reacting. But if they're slower at spotting it, that's going to balance it out. But I enjoy that. I think that's a fun element in games is when they have that slight separation for me. But that's just because I'm better at that.
Absolutely. And I think that, you were saying like, someone might be better at spotting versus someone's better at reacting. Like for Delton, he could spot, like he was saying earlier, you could steal from the other person's hand and he would spot my hand really quickly, quicker than I would spot my own hand. But I would catch him because oftentimes I would beat him to my own tile.
Yeah, I couldn't get my hand over there to your stuff fast enough.
So I still have the reaction time, baby. That kept me from being totally demolished, even though I lost both games.
Yeah, I've got super slow reaction time a lot of the times. It's bad. But I mean that's basically Cobra Paw. We've played it before with family, with 4 players, and it's the same thing. It's just a little bit more hectic. There's a few small rules like don't hide the stones, the little domino tile things that you've got. Don't cover them. Don't use 2 hands. Don't try to block people. The basic, simple rules like that. But it's a simple game, but it's also a fun game. It's the perfect game to play with a younger audience.
Hey, what can I get you?
I'd like a topic.
Any special way?
Make it a top shelf topic.
Coming up. Enjoy. Now that's a segue with round tires.
That is a segue with round tires. Maybe flat on a few sides, but it's fine.
It's rolling.
But today, for the topic of the episode, we wanted to talk about games for kids. Now, we've talked a lot in the past about adapting games for kids, modifying them, changing them, including kids or younger members of the family. But this is more specifically about actual games that are built for children or for younger audiences.
Yeah, so these would be the games that you would pick up for a 6-year-old or for an 8-year-old. And really why I wanted to do this topic was because it's summer break. And I remember for me as a kid, I stayed a lot with my grandparents or I stayed with my grandma who was working at a church. And that's kind of how we kept ourselves entertained was games. And I remember we had a bunch of games, but we had like Sequence and we had Monopoly. And yeah, we could play those as a kid, but how much does a kid really enjoy those games? Those are really games geared towards adults, logic and reasoning games. And so what I wanted to talk about today was games that are made for kids. Games, of course, that, us adults enjoy, like Cobra Paw. It took Delton and I 2 minutes to play, but it was really fun, even though I lost. And so that's why I wanted to bring that up today is what are some games that we can bring out to the kids for summer? And I think what we're really talking about is ages what? 5 to 11 today?
Probably the kids that likely aren't just gonna be riding their bikes around town with their friends in a small town, but they're still old enough that they can either be by themselves or they're close to that age for a while. Like, I feel like 5's a little early, but maybe 6 to 7 is when you're like, "I'm gonna run to the store, it'll be 30 minutes. Just, keep the door locked." Like, I feel like is that the right age or am I way off?
Well,
I don't know my ages and my, that stuff.
so here's a little so technically no, that wouldn't be an age that we would leave. You can tell we're not parents.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be an age that we would leave a kid.
'Kay.
But you would think probably about 12 or so in Oklahoma, kids can legally be left alone and watch other kids at age 12.
Okay.
And so maybe like these would be the games that the kids can play by themselves, but still with like adult supervision, kind of
I was
in the
alone
area.
younger than that at home.
Now at age 12, I was in charge of other children. Like I was babysitting babies at age 12. So
I do not doubt that one bit.
I was also driving at age 12, like go to town and get stuff. So
I mean, I just keep thinking back to when I was like 8 or 9 and it would be an ice storm and I would have on my boots and my coveralls and I would have a baseball bat and my mom's just like, "Don't hit your head." And I would just run around outside knocking the ice off the fence and beating up on tree limbs, knocking the ice off and running around and falling on stuff. But also kind of different times and I
yeah.
was a country kid, so it was like, just don't eat the dirt. I don't care if you're playing it, just don't eat it.
Let's see. I think it was so, and I'll tell a story later in the episode. But like at 7 or 8, we would be left alone, kind of to our own devices outside for a few hours at a time. And then by age 12, we were driving and like I was earning money babysitting. And like nowadays, I'm like, oh God, I would not trust a 12-year-old with a child. That is a child.
No, not at all.
But I never killed any kid. No kid died under my watch. So
That's
far, so
good.
good. But let's talk today about the games we probably should have been given as a kid or that we really would have enjoyed or that I think that kids today, these kids these days would really enjoy. And one of those is Cobra Paw.
Cobra Paw's just simple. I think something with kids is getting physically involved. When a child or member of your family is younger, and I feel like younger kids that their mind is a lot better used in imagination, right? And I don't know if better used is the right term, but when it's a younger child, and I think of like 8 and under,
You think make believe?
they do a lot of make believe, right? As they get older, they stop doing more that much make believe, but their mind kicks in other ways. But I almost feel like the main component that can keep all of those different age groups' attention is the physical aspect. There has to be something physical for a lot of those children, or else it's not fun. If they're just thinking, little kids are going to start imagining, and it's going to be more fun and goofy that way. Older kids are probably going to get a little bored depending on the thinking, or it'll be too much thinking where they don't find it fun.
So,
Does that make sense?
yeah, so you want something that is a little more tangible, but also something that is shorter too. It can keep their attention.
Yes.
They can easily teach it, but also has like that tangible element where they're playing with something and they're engaging in something in some way. It's not just this abstract thought. Because abstract thought, the abstract thought that it takes to, play a Euro game or plan 3 or 4 rounds in advance, that's not really starting to develop until age 12. And so we're talking about games that kids can play where it doesn't require a lot of abstract thought. It does possibly take thinking or planning or problem solving, but you're not having to sit there and strategize for 20 minutes before you play. It's things that you can easily teach, kids can easily teach each other, and that are very engaging for kids between, I say, like 5 to 11 or 12.
Exactly, and I think that nails it. So a lot of it for me is going to be coming down to, like I said, that physical, tangible aspect that you said. To me, that's the big critical essential mark for a kid's game. Something they can touch and move and feel at any age is even, I mean, heck, even now, the fun part of, doing a massive, ridiculous Euro game is I'm going to push this cube over here and move this cube over here and then place, a big cube. Like, that's fun, right? Physical aspects are fun.
And so one that I really like to use, and I used to use this when I was in person in therapy with kids as a reward game, is Kitty Paw. So keeping on brand with the kitty games. And so Kitty Paw is a game where you have different tiles of different kitty cats, and you draw a card. You draw a card, and on that card, it is a collection of kitties in a different orientation. And it's a race to see who can orient their kitties in that fashion as soon as possible. Now, I've played that as young as 7, and I've played that as old as like 12 or 13 with client kids, but we as adults like to play that too. That's one of my favorite like puzzly problem solving games. But that one's really fun because one, it's cute. Two, it's easy to teach. And three, it's easy to play. A kid can play around in 2 minutes, 3 minutes or so, and then they can be done, or they can play over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's a great game that has that. It's got a physical component. It has a little bit of a thought component, and depending on the prompt cards you use, it could either be very simple or very complicated. But then adults are also entertained by it. So if you're playing it with a young member of your family, then you're also having fun.
And I like it too because like Cobra Paw, I'm imagining like a 10-year-old explaining it to another 10-year-old is you roll the dice, you have to be the first one to find the matching tile, and you touch it with one finger. With Kitty Paw, basically, you lay the card down, make that. And like
Yeah,
that's the rules of the game. It's something another 10-year-old can explain to another 10-year-old easily.
yeah, and I think that is a good line for how these games work, right? One of the games that come to mind for me every time, and really it's anything from Haba, Haba. Haba makes, I mean, they've got a ton of stuff specifically tailored for children. One of their biggest games ever is just Rhino Hero. You're simply stacking up cards that are like building pieces and trying to stack them and not knock it over. So it's kind of like Jenga, but you're not removing any from down under. But Rhino Hero is a very simple game. It's easy. Stack these, don't knock it down. Flip a card, tells you how many to put, right? Nice and simple, easy for kids to teach each other, but also an easy concept. I am going to say, I don't know when this ends. Okay, it ends Monday, June 27th. So if you're listening to this episode on Sunday when it comes out,
You have 24
the
hours.
like 8 or 9 people that do, uh, it looks like they are having a 20% off site wide sale right now on Haba. And that's at habausa.com. And they mark all their toys 0 to 12 months, 12 to 24 months, 2 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 8 years, and then 8 years plus. And they've got toys and games and puzzles and all kinds of stuff. So I wanted to make sure to shout that out as well.
What was the blue orange one you were talking about earlier too?
Blue Orange, that was Dr. Eureka
Yes, Dr. Eureka.
and Dr. Beaker.
Yeah, so Dr. Eureka is another one that I played with kids as like a reward in sessions, but also helped with the abstract thought. So it's another pattern game. So you draw a card. Your beakers have a pattern that you have to make, and you have to take your beakers, which have different colored marbles inside, and move the marbles one at a time in order to make that pattern. Now, with that one, I learned in session, like it might take me a couple of times explaining the rules. As you can tell, I'm usually not the one who explains the rules as Delton. So it takes me a couple of times to explain the rules to kids, but once they play one round, they've got it. And I've actually seen other kids teach each other how to play it too. And so that one I've played as young as 7 again. But even me as an adult, I remember we got it for Delton's nephew Tyler whenever he was younger, and he kicked our butt at it a couple of times too.
He did.
Like kids grasp it really quickly.
I have a hard time with that one. So it's the kind of game where each of these little vials, they have 3 marbles in them of different colors. So you have to think, okay, with all these marbles, you have to have one or two or all of them look like this picture. So you're saying, okay, this one's got 3. I'm going to pour the top one that's blue off into this other one, which leaves me with purple, yellow. If I pour the purple off, then yellow's the last one. I need to find a red on top to pour the red into this one to make it red, then yellow. And so you're having to do this juggle of figuring out which colors go where. And it's very fun. It can be very frustrating. It is for me because those games get to me every time. It's like I start looking, okay, I could do this or this or this or that, and then I get overloaded. But definitely a good game that you can use for kids. And Dr. Beaker, I don't know exactly how it plays, but it's a similar concept. Now, Blue Orange in general, I'm on their website right now. They have all kinds of games for different age groups, including younger ones. So one of the games, and I've heard this is very good for kids, is called Bye Bye Mr. Fox. It is targeted at ages 5 and up, 1 to 4 players. It says, and they even, what I like on their website for their games, they talk about the skills that the game utilizes or builds. This is fine motor, focus and attention, social play, and cooperation. And so that's what Bye Bye Mr. Fox has. But Blue Orange, their website is blueorangegames.com. All of their games you look at ages 4 and up, ages 6 and up, 7 and up, 10 and up, 8 and up, 4 and up. And they have a bunch of different games and puzzles and little activities and things like that to do with all different age groups. So I highly also recommend Blue Orange. Those are probably the two companies. Anytime someone says what company makes good kids games, I'm pointing them to those two, Haba and Blue Orange, every time. Just because that's kind of where their market focus mostly is. But they're very good.
Yeah, and so whether it is a Haba game, a Blue Orange game, or any of the kitty games that we've talked about today.
What about the last kitty game?
Oh, the last kitty game. It is the one that Nick and Jennifer gave us.
Yep.
Kitty
Kitten Klash.
Kitten Klash.
With
Dang it.
both with K's.
Yes.
Yeah. Kitten Klash. It's been a while since we played this one now. Kitten Klash is basically you have two different colors. There's like a blue cat color and a pink cat color, something like that, right? Basically, you're playing cards in the same timing. So we're both going to place one card, one card, one card, place it, place it, place it. You find a rhythm that works for you. And what it is when you place that card, if you're going to place 3 in a small row, and your opponent is going to place 3 next to basically touching yours. So there's 3 on your side, 3 on their side. The cards are almost touching. Anytime cards next to each other are a matching color, you have to slap those 2 cards. And in slapping those 2 cards, I think you either claim them or get points. I really would have to look at it. It's been a minute. But it's a very simple one that with a younger kid, you could slow the timing down so that way their motor skills as they work through, flip the cards over, and then there's that visual cue. I think that would be another one that you could easily play with a younger family member and have a good time, and they would enjoy it too.
Yeah. So, and like I was saying, whether it is the Blue Orange games or the Hobby games or any of these beautiful kitty games we play, or something else, I think a good rule of thumb for picking out games for those ages, especially if you want the kids to be able to play amongst themselves or teach their neighbor friends, or teach their siblings while they're home on summer vacation. Think about games that are, like Delton said, have some sort of movement or some sort of tangible object that they're using, more concrete. Think about games that take maybe 1 or 2 sentences to explain, because kids aren't going to want to explain long games, and kids aren't going to want to listen to their friends explain long games. And also think about games that are more shorter, maybe at most 15, 20 minutes or so, something that
Probably.
will keep their attention, because kids don't have to necessarily play long games to have fun. Maybe they can play a game once and then go off and play something else. Maybe they really like a game and play it 4, 5, 6 times in an afternoon, but make sure it's short. That way that keeps their interest and they can actually end with the winner.
And I think one thing to keep in mind too is you know your kids best or your family members likely. Sometimes a kid will need a game that's targeted a little lower for games. Sometimes a kid will be able to take something much higher. You will be able to adapt and find that balance, and that's something to keep in mind. Like if you buy a game that's made for a 10-year-old and up for a 10-year-old, they may grasp it immediately or they may struggle with it. But that's something that you'll find out and you'll kind of be able to work around. But luckily, in this board game world we're at right now, there are thousands of options of games, and we may have named a couple different games we like, a couple things like Cobra Paw and Kitten Klash, or companies like Haba and Blue Orange. There's so much more. You'll be able to find something that works for you, something that fits the levels, and you can make adaptations and flex it all around. But in the end, you'll be able to find something that you can play with family or with friends and have a good time.
And a great way to start to explore these games is, if you can, going to a board game cafe
Yeah.
or going to a library. A lot of libraries have board games on the shelves now. And some libraries, too, can do interlibrary loans. So if your library doesn't necessarily have a game, if they're part of an interlibrary loan program, maybe they can get a game. That way you guys can play it without having to pay for it first.
That's a good idea. I didn't think about that. And then I guess I don't know how many there are kid specific, but there are a lot of board game companies that are producing apps of their board games. And a lot of, like 99% of those, if not all of them, work on an iPad. And a lot of people now have iPads or tablets of some sort, right? Or at least for kids, they generally have some sort of tablet. I think that there are kids' versions of games that are also tablet focused. So maybe if you have that, but you don't have access to the board games, or you want to try something for a buck or two before you buy it, or something, that might be a way. You might have to aim a little higher age at that. I guess at that point, I don't know.
I don't know. Lakin can run an iPad better than my parents can.
That's true. But that's something to keep in mind as well. That is a potential alternative there.
But in the end, we hope that the kids have a great summer. I know Delton and I were doing a little bit of reminiscing about our summer vacations before this podcast episode. But, if your kids are into games, maybe this is hopefully we brought you some other ideas to introduce the kids to. So that way you can get them converted into the hobby and they can also have a board game addiction growing up.
And now, join us for a Malthaus Games podcast special, Pint-Sized Question.
Let's crack this last beer that I kind of forgot about real quick, and that way we can taste it here for the final question and ending of the episode. So this is from Mountain Fork Brewery down in Hochatown, Oklahoma. Whenever we went down to Broken Bow and did all that down by the Beaver's Bend. Beaver's Bend? Is that right? Yeah, that's right.
I got my beaver pants on.
You do. Perfect. So this is from Mountain Fork Brewery. This is Crumpet, an English-style brown ale. It says here, established in 2015, our water comes from the pristine Mountain Fork River. We believe that from a good source comes a good beer. Our goal is to produce easy-drinking, creatively crafted beers with you in mind. This is a 5.5% alcohol by volume. So much less than the last beer at 8. Okay, so this one has a nice amber look to it. You really can't see hardly any light through it. It's a little darker than I thought.
It smells like molasses.
Good head retention. There is some molasses and like that caramelized sugar smell.
Oh, that smells wonderful.
Let's give that a taste. It's a full-bodied, still nice carbonation, but not heavy.
What are those cookies? Oh, the Biscoff cookies. It tastes like a Biscoff cookie.
Yeah, I can see that. It's got a little bit of that cookiness, that biscuit. I wonder if they have biscuit malt in here a little bit. It is an English-style brown ale, and I feel like a lot of the English style, I could be wrong. I am not an expert nor professional, but I feel like a lot of the English style uses biscuit malt. I like biscuit malt a lot in wintry, more fall, which this kind of is, more fall or wintry flavors, because it adds that little bit of Christmas cookie taste to me.
Yeah, so it has like that Christmas cookie taste, but then the finish is a bit drier than I was expecting.
It is much drier. I wonder if that also comes from the English side of it, because I feel like English beers tend to finish dry. I mean, you think of an English bitter or an ESB or any of the other like English beers we've had. I feel like they tend to linger on that dry side versus, like that IPA we had that just finished very juicy and full flavored and full bodied.
I like it.
That's a really good beer. So that's Crumpet from Mountain Fork Brewery. Well, for the question of this episode, Haley thought the best option to go was going to be, or I guess is, what is your favorite summer vacation memory? And by summer vacation, she means off of school as a kid.
Yeah, so I remember whenever I was a kid watching the Tiny Toon Adventures summer vacation, and how everybody like wrote stories about what they did on summer vacation, really meaning summer break. And so that's kind of the angle I was going at. What was your favorite memory from your summer break as a kid?
So for me, feels like we had a lot of summer breaks as a kid. Like that was most of my childhood, but I don't know if I just repressed memories from my school days or what. But my favorite one, now I don't know how much of a child I was. I was old enough to ride a bike around town while mom was working and I was staying at grandma's house. But I had my BMX Mongoose bike from Walmart that I had for the longest time.
Oh, hell yeah.
And me and Tanner, we got on our bikes, we were riding around, and we decided, this is how far back it was. So the town I grew up in, Geary, north of Geary, like, I don't know, 5 minutes, is a small town called Greenfield. Now, Greenfield is tiny, used to have a school. It has now officially been torn down. I don't remember what year they did that. But it's a little bitty small town. It was mostly farmers. It's not necessarily dilapidated, but it's not in a great state at the moment. But back in this time, the highway going out to Greenfield, which continued past it to Watonga, was 2-lane the whole way through. Right now it's 4-lane. So this was a moment when they were building the other 2 lanes. They had already done one side to make sure it was good, right? They were doing the other side. So me and Tanner hopped on our bikes and decided we're just going to ride out as far as we can. and we got all the way to the end of what they had built on that new 2-lane side. And
Oh my God.
Since it was new construction, there was nobody on the road. It wasn't drivable, so we could just ride without having to worry about it. I think we rode from if I look back at it now, it was probably close to like 2 to 3 miles out, because Greenfield's 5 minutes at 65 miles an hour. It's a good ways out there. I think it was 2 to 3 miles. I think we passed American Horse Road, which is the first big road out of town, but for sure. But we got a ways, and then we turned around and came back. And we came back, and the streetlights were on, and it was starting to get toward dark. Not dark, like not sunset, but damn close. Mom was not too happy. She was very upset. You're supposed to be back by streetlights before the streetlights come on. I was like, you never told me that. But that was a very fun time riding bikes with Tanner around town, and I remember doing that as a kid. We did it a lot. We used to drive through. This is my other big memory I just remembered. We used to ride our bikes through the whatever the Bank of Western Oklahoma, their drive-through is right in the middle of downtown. And when you drive through it, there's this little thing that you could jump your bike off of. But it's in the drive-through, and they only have one lane. So they'd yell at you like, get out of here. We're like, sorry. And we'd have to like drive off somewhere else. Pretty funny, but I just remember that.
So for you, it seems like the exhilaration of like that independence and adventure with your friend was really what made that memory special.
Yeah, me and Tanner used to ride our bikes around town all the time. That was just a big part of my childhood in the summers. What about you, Haley, now that was a 30-minute story?
Well, that was a good story. Thank you for sharing that, Del. It sounds like you had a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I was about 8 years old. So at this point, my cousin Cody was 8. I was 8. My cousin Kayla, his older sister, was 10. And my sister Riley was 6. And my grandparents had a dairy farm and a big pasture. And I remember getting up one morning. Grandma made us egg sandwiches. We ate our egg sandwiches. We packed up some peanut butter and jelly and some snacks in my backpack. And we took off down to the creek. And we probably left about 8 o'clock that morning and didn't come back till about 5 o'clock that night. We hiked across the pasture, went down to the creek bed, played in the mud, went swimming in the creek, ate our sandwiches on the bank, went swimming again, and just had the absolute best time. I remember that day clear as day, I guess you'd say. But I remember we got out of the water, we're just soaking wet, our tummies are full, and then a water moccasin just goes across the water. And we took off running back to the house, and we knew we were in trouble. 1, because we were supposed to be back by lunchtime. 2, because we weren't supposed to get into the creek. 3, because we weren't supposed to go that far in general. And so we made it back to Grandma's house, and she yelled at us, and she threw us all in the bathtub and got us clean. But that was one of the first times in my life that I remember thinking, I'm knowingly breaking the rules, but I know this is worth it. And like looking back, I know I broke the rules.
Yep.
Oh my God, but we had so much fun.
That's funny. I remember those days where you had a timeline or a curfew or a place you weren't supposed to go, but by golly, it was worth it.
I mean, Grandma didn't come looking for us. We would have heard the four-wheeler.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So we were fine. She knew we were fine. We just got a tongue lashing. She never told my mom and dad. We just had the best time.
I feel like that was the thing with us as kids growing up in Western Oklahoma. Different types of country living.
Yes, you were way more country. I was more farm.
Yours was more farm, yes. And mine was just more, we just live out here because we're poor. Like, it was a little bit of a different attitude, but we had similar things where the fun of living in the country was, I'm going to go down here to the canyon and run around in the trees and try not to die. And that was our childhood and what we did. We had a trampoline. Tornadoes always threw it around when the winds came through, bent it all up.
I could think of like 5 times in my life where I probably should have died as a kid.
Oh, for sure. But kids are squishy and they survive.
We survived.
We're malleable, but we're also buoyant.
Yes.
I don't know of a better term.
We're also 30 because we're getting older. It's like, yeah, when I was a kid, I hiked 15 miles uphill to the creek, and I spent all day in the creek and ate nothing but dirt and frog legs.
There you go. I did have frog legs.
Mm-hmm. Who didn't?
A lot of people didn't. But yeah, so there you go. There's our favorite little summertime story as a kid. When Haley first pitched this idea to me, she said, yeah, favorite summer vacation. I said, Haley, we didn't take summer vacations. We were poor. And she was like, no, stupid. Off of school. I was like, oh, okay. She didn't actually call me stupid, but I said that anyway in my brain. But yeah, so there you go. There's that. There's the episode. I think that's all of that stuff. I'm going to give a shout out to our Patreon patrons. Thank you so much to Allison, Alan, Jennifer, and Cliff. Thank you all so much for supporting us on Patreon. If you want to be like them and be awesome supporters of the show, you can head to patreon.com/malthausgames, MALTHAUS games. We have plenty of other supporters on there, just not at the level in which get shouted out on the show, and you can be like any one of them if you would like to. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and by all, I mean currently Instagram and Twitter, because I've deactivated Facebook just for a mixture of my own sanity and the fact that it's the least productive social media platform for me to be on. So at the moment, it's deactivated, but you can find us everywhere else at Malthaus Games, MALTHAUS Games. You can find me personally at Delton Brack, DELTONBRACK. You can find Haley at
SQUIRRELYGEEK.
That is at Squirrely Geek. If you have a game you think we need to cover on the show, a topic you want us to talk about, a question for us to answer, or if there are beers nearby you want us to find and drink, make sure to send an email to contact@malthausgames.com. And then you can also head over to shop.malthausgames.com if you want to buy a t-shirt with our logo on it, a beer glass with our logo on it, a sticker with our logo on it, or a fanny pack, you guessed it, with our logo on it.
I'm going to give everybody a challenge this episode.
What's that?
I would like everybody listening, to do something to indulge your inner child for the next 2 weeks.
There you go.
Like, go get a snow cone. Like, do something that you did in summer vacation that you love. Like, go get a snow cone. I don't know. Go for a walk around the neighborhood. Light off fireworks. Blow up a toy using fireworks. Something like that. But not really. Don't do that. That sounds illegal nowadays. But really, do something like go get a snow cone. Go for a swim. Just go sit in the sun. Like, do something that reminds you of being a kid again. And I think what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to go ride my skateboard around. And also, I want to go get a snow cone. We haven't gone to get a snow cone.
We haven't this year yet, but we need to because it literally takes us like
2 minutes to walk.
7 minutes to walk there.
Yeah, let's go get some cash this weekend. Let's go get a snow cone.
That sounds good.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get a snow cone. I challenge you all to do the same. Do something to indulge that inner kid. And sit back, relax, have a drink, and play some games.
Close. Grab a drink.
Damn it. Grab a drink and play some games. Grab a snow cone, play some games.
There you go. Thank you all for listening. Okay, bye.
Bye.